Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, in fact I should say ladies in Warwick and Augusto. Very honored, of course, to be here today, and I'm really grateful to Mrs. Haifa Al-Kailani and, of course, all the AIWF team for their leadership, their vision, and, of course, their extreme hard work in making today possible, and, of course, for all the incredibly inspirational work that they have done and continue to do. There's never been a more exciting and important time to be talking about social responsibility within this unique region of the world, particularly as it relates to the well-being and the overdue full participation of women in all facets of our economies and societies. So what I'd like to talk about today is how I believe social entrepreneurship in the region can be an incredible tool for ensuring that the next generation of young Arab women generates many more role models, such as the many distinguished delegates who are present here today. I'd also like to talk about the social importance of women's representation in the management of companies and the clear evidence of the resulting positive economic and financial impact. After this, and of course recognizing that I'm flanked here by speakers much more qualified to talk on this subject than I am, I'd just like to say a few words about what the Crescent Group and the Pearl Initiative see as the importance of promoting social entrepreneurship within companies and the positive effects that that has, especially by and for women. Now, as we've heard here today, the role of women in the workforce has changed dramatically over the last several decades, successfully balancing both work and family life to create a strong path for future generations who may wish to accomplish the same. The fact is today that women have many new doors open that were once unfortunately closed. Comprehensive education is more readily available to both genders more than ever, including the remote learning options which allow populations in rural or remote areas to educate themselves in traditional classrooms or even online. But it's a mistake to attribute the growth in women's corporate representation solely to better access to education. More than anything, it's a consequence of the long overdue change in attitudes, a recognition of the importance of women's involvement in corporate decisions and good governance on the whole. But how is this recognition of the importance of women's involvement manifesting itself? The 2012 GMI Ratings Global Survey of Women on Boards includes data on over 4,300 companies in 45 countries around the globe. The results show a clear incremental improvement in most measures of female board representation year on year. For the first time ever, women hold more than 1 in 10 board seats globally, and at the same time the percentage of companies with no female directors at all has fallen below 40%. But there is, of course, a wide variation between regions of the world. Norway's board members, I think we've heard, are close to 40% female, Sweden and Finland 26%, France 17%, Australia 15%. By contrast, though, Egypt is 7% and Morocco still 0% among the sampled companies in this report. So evidently the MENA region still has a long way to go to catch up with the industrialized world in this regard. And it's also important to note that some of these changes are mandated. So the European Commission has recently defended proposals for there to be at least 40% women non-executive directors on the boards of big listed companies by 2020. Furthermore, EU proposals say that companies must have clear, gender-neutral criteria for choosing non-executive directors, and that if candidates are found to be equally qualified, then preference should be given to women, and rightly so, I say. And the welcome and really visionary announcement by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, Prime Minister of the UAE, making it compulsory for corporations and government agencies to include women on their boards is, I think, a huge step in the right direction. So progress is being made, though geographically uneven. But why is this so relevant to the Arab world? Well, I believe it's because the position of women as employers, employees, consumers, and leaders is increasingly seen as a measure of health, maturity, and economic viability. There are greater market opportunities available to companies and economies that understand what motivates women in the workplace and the marketplace. companies that learn to adapt to all its employees' needs will be better able to respond to the challenge of an aging workforce and the demands of the next generation of knowledge workers. A recent McKinsey report details practical examples on how some companies have moved successfully to increasing the hiring, retention, and promotion of female executives. Their initiatives have included efforts to ensure that HR policies aren't inadvertently biased against women or part-time workers, to encourage mentoring and networking, and to establish and consistently monitor at a very senior level targets for diversity, and as well as to find ways to creating a better work-life balance. Now, changes like this, as most changes in any organization, may have a cost in the short term, but there are huge business advantages to making them, above and beyond the public relations benefit that might accrue to companies viewed as being socially progressive. So it clearly makes business sense to have women represented at senior levels in companies. And it's also, in my opinion, the only morally right thing to do. But what about the double and triple bottom line effects and benefits? What about the importance of women in promoting social entrepreneurship? Now let me just summarize what I mean by this. The triple bottom line really means measuring the economic, social, as well as ecological impact of businesses. So in other words, it's the profit, planet, and people, or the 3 Ps. Social entrepreneurship in certain organizations is really embracing the many issues facing our global societies and integrating this approach into solving some of the biggest problems in the world, and really integrating this approach into the fabric of business models. So this, in some ways, as I like to sort of refer to it, is a repackaging of capitalism, redefining what it means to be a truly successful business. The social entrepreneurship business model means that we are accountable not just for producing profitable organizations financially, but we're also accountable for producing organizations that generate positive social as well as environmental impact. So this is one of the pillars of the Pearl Initiative, which is a private sector-led initiative which I founded and launched in partnership with the United Nations Office of Partnerships, really seeking to promote a culture of transparency and accountability and good business practices across the region. And Warwick joins me in that journey. To the Pearl Initiative and to me, social entrepreneurship is about creative capitalism, generating these sustainable business models, and again, as I said, redefining what it is to be successful business in today's world. It's about organizing our marketplace of egos and ideas in order to find practical ways to reconcile interests with responsibilities. Now, just to be clear, social entrepreneurship is not about encouraging charity. One of the unfortunate features of many purely philanthropic ventures is that they're heavily dependent upon fluctuations on the economy and the markets. And of course, charitable ventures suffer the most when people tighten their belts following these market fluctuations. So this is why sustainability and scalability are key and unique features of social entrepreneurship. So in doing so, social entrepreneurship should be able to contribute to the achievement of all 8 of the UN Millennium Development Goals, which range from halving extreme poverty and universal gender equality to halting the spread of some of the most devastating diseases and providing universal primary education. They form a blueprint agreed to by all the world's countries and all the world's leading development institutions. And there is no doubt that women are disproportionately represented among the world's disenfranchised and needy, and especially vulnerable to life's shocks. A growing range of programs and institutions led by social entrepreneurs has demonstrated that if the products and services that we provide are well designed to meet the needs of the less fortunate, then the base of the economic pyramid can be served effectively and profitably. For too long, we've assumed that if the free market is not accessible to the underprivileged, then governments will somehow magically solve the problem. Now, centuries of history make it very clear that whilst governments can certainly play an important part in the solution, that they cannot solve such colossal problems on their own. In today's world, the latent demand for essential social services, including health, education, housing, communications, and financial, and the potential efficiency gains to these communities from city slums to remote villages, are huge. The days of either-or thinking or the belief that there is a zero-sum calculation to be made are over. We're in a world today where businesses can do good while doing well at the same time. So promoting good governance and transparency is important in achieving economic success. But how can companies provide a financial return to shareholders while supporting social programs within their communities and ensuring a positive, or at least non-negative, ecological footprint? Well, I believe that they can do this in many ways, but ensuring that women's representation in positions of responsibility is a key component of ensuring that the social impact of a company keeps a special focus on the needs of over half our global population. So in other words, I think we're redefining what good governance truly means. I strongly believe that a good corporate ethos is necessary, but not a sufficient criteria for success within this repackaged definition. It needs a corporate governance framework to make it work. It needs vision and mission, which is embedded into the organization. It needs an engaged, independent, active, and informed board. It needs an embracing of integrated reporting within the standard corporate governance of a company, and it needs a recognition of transparency as the bedrock of governance. And more than ever, it needs women active at all levels within the corporation to harness their special skills and perspectives and to ensure that human resources within the company pay special attention to mothers' unique needs and to ensure that social outreach of the company is well attuned to the most vulnerable. Now, before I conclude, I'd like to share a quick story about a Bedouin lady who lives with her daughters in one of Jordan's poorest desert villages on the Iraqi border. The story started a few years ago when I was inspired to hear about an Indian gentleman named Bunker Roy, who founded something called the Barefoot College over 40 years ago, where illiterate grandmothers from rural villages around the world are trained in 6 months to be solar engineers. And then they're sent back to their villages, literally, as well as through job creation, to empower and power their villages and generate economic opportunity through providing clean power and electricity to their villages. Now, why women? Well, for the very important reason that, without doubt, they're far more loyal to their communities than men. And it's a known trend that men who develop these skills tend to very quickly migrate to urban areas in search of a better quality of life, where women don't just pick up and leave their families. Now, why grandmothers? Well, because in these villages that Bunker was working with, they tended to command more authority, and especially in tribal systems, where they have a generation of men below them, and maybe more than mothers and sisters can apply. So I felt the Barefoot College needed an Arab representation, and in 40 years of his work, he'd never had Arab representation in the Barefoot College. So through a small grant I provided, we managed to get some Arab women, such as Rafia, to embark on this learning journey. Now, in order to ensure this was well documented for awareness-raising purposes, our executive produced really a small documentary which follows Rafia's journey as she overcomes huge social, learning, and vocational difficulties, but succeeds in transforming her life as well as those of her whole village. It really is a story of the power of one woman in an incredibly difficult circumstance against all odds, and through education, alternative energy, and employment, manages to accomplish what nobody in her, really nobody believed that she would be able to accomplish. And we've arranged, as I think may have been mentioned, an exclusive screening tonight at 8 p.m. So whoever is interested in watching, I mean, I've seen the documentary and it's worth seeing. And we provide popcorn also. Ladies and gentlemen, everywhere around the world I see gifted, strong, driven, and inspiring women in business. I'm humbled that the next generation of young Arab women can look to them as inspiration, secure in their knowledge that with hard work and determination, they will have every bit the same opportunities as their brothers will to succeed. Not just in business, but really, again, as I said, all roles in society. And this generation will be one that carries a torch of social entrepreneurship forward, ensuring that a company is an engaged corporate citizen looking for a return in people and planet, and not just profit. And the people that it will generate the highest return from will be women. Thank you.